Warning, there are major spoilers ahead for the entire S.T.A.L.K.E.R trilogy. You have been warned.
I was doing some research, playing S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 and some of the mods, and I've been thinking about what the X labs are, and I wanted to come on here and give my ideas. So there are the ones we think we know about. So there's X0, the foundation, where Suslov's Varometer is. That's present in S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2. The Cordon has the Oasis 3, which was a site of hallucinogenic testing, which is also seen in S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2. Agroprom, the controller project, X5, again also seen in S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, is in the Agroprom underground, same as where S.T.A.L.K.E.R's hideout is. X6, this is one I'm not too sure about, but I put in here I don't even know why I put it in here, but I believe this is where the first Caribbean experiment was held, at least. When I went looking on the wiki, it says, I'll bring it up over here, located in the CMPP's cooling pond, the first Caribbean experiment was conducted here, not explorable in game. I figured that this was where Scala/Block 5 was, in the cooling towers. We have X7 at the generators, the heart of the zone. This is obviously where Seek Consciousness is, in Shadow of Chernobyl. X8, obviously from Call of Pripyat, is the meet-up location and former headquarters of the group. X9, for the ones that are blank, I'm going to go into what I think they could be in the next page of this. X10 is the brain sculpture at the radar. X11 is underneath S.T.A.L.K.E.R, and that's where the second Caribbean experiment happens in S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2. At X15 you have Orbiter, which was one of the X network stations. The first noosphere pod was built here, and that would eventually be developed into the common consciousness, as stated by the wiki, and it makes sense. At X16, obviously in Yantar, where the Miracle Machine, or the Sea Brain is. That's probably one of the most famous X labs, along with X10. X17, Malachite, is where the videograph was developed, or at least one of the places where it was. X16, we got sorry, I'm a bit sick. X18, the Dark Valley. It's a bit of like a all over the place lab, but I think it's most memorable for stuff like the sea embryos, I believe they're called, and all of the different mutants like the pseudo-giant, poltergeist, pyrogeists. But X18 is like a very interesting lab that you could do so much research on. If you want like any research into some of the labs, I'd recommend going to Anomalous Dugout, watching his playlist of some of the underground areas like Agroprom, X18. Some of it might be considered a little outdated now, but it's still got really good info and it's quite detailed. And they're definitely the videos to go to. And then X19 at Chernobyl, because initially X19 was known as it was the brain sculpture, but S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 has confirmed that X10 is the brain sculpture's lab, and I was looking on the wiki, and I think I'm reading this correctly. X19, renamed Monolith Control Center, obviously that's the place at the end of S.T.A.L.K.E.R Shadow of Chernobyl, if you get the right ending. And yeah, I think that makes sense for it to be an X lab. X19, there's going to be a lab you can explore under Chernobyl in Stalker 2 and one of the DLCs. So I think that makes sense that it would be the one on the control center X19. But I suppose we'll have to wait and see. For the other ones, some ideas were I was thinking if you look at Kaimanov's glow, if I can get a picture of it, I'll show you. But I believe that there is an idea of X-Labs possibly being outside of the zone. I can't find a picture of it, unfortunately. But if you know that there's, well, a globe. And it's got a bunch of, like, lit up points. And I believe them to be X-Labs that could possibly be outside of the zone. However, the more I think about it, the more unlikely I think that is. I feel like it would make most sense for all X-Labs to be contained within that area of the zone. However, again, I could be wrong. That was just an idea of mine. But if we look at other ones, Scala Block 5, which I guess would kind of be considered as the X6, that could be that. Now, with Lemansk and the Radio Institute, it's an interesting story because Lemansk is so old compared to the zone. I believe the city was constructed before so many other things in the zone, including Pripyat, the power plant, even the Agroprom Research Institute. So, yeah, I think Lemansk has the possibility of being housing an X-Lab. And I think it would make most sense for it to be under the Radio Wave Institute, where the radio wave antenna is. But again, I'm not too sure. I think Lemansk is just going to remain as a weird city, and maybe it will just be that the radio wave antennas are just something before all the X-Labs, and it will remain that way, because the place seemed to be abandoned just for forever after the first disaster, but who knows. I think there's going to be a DLC around Lemansk, which I'm looking quite forward to, so I suppose we'll get ideas there. Ignoring this one and going straight onto X4, you see here, I think there are other locations in the zone that can be X-Labs, even if they aren't explicitly mentioned as one. So, X4 could be the testing workshop you see in Call of Pripyat in the Iron Forest that was developing the Gauss rifle. Not developing the Gauss rifle per se, but like helping understand the science behind it. X9, the Troposphere Comm Center, which was northwest of the Brain Scorcher area, and it's where I think the S.T.A.L.K.E.R program, like the Seek Consciousness agents, they were thought about, planned and discussed and like created there. You can see like other possible installations, ignoring these two. You have the Krug Antenna Complex. Now, with the Krug Antenna Complex, it's a weird story because I can't really say. Like, yeah, it's got all of these different antennae. I think it's the latter. Antennae surrounding it, and then the building has some interesting, I suppose, secrets that we are yet to properly discover. But Yeah, I mean, I also think it's quite interesting that bloodsuckers specifically hide in the Krug antenna complex where there's all the antennas, but that could just be me thinking too much. The CPM lab. I tried to look into it. I can't remember exactly what the CPM lab is. According to this, at least I'm pretty sure it's the weird lab, like next to X15 under. But I'm not sure. I'm not gonna say anything about it because I genuinely don't really remember what the CPM lab was. The VPC mirror, which is west of Malachite. I think this definitely contributes as a as an X lab. I think that makes a lot of sense, but I suppose we'll have to also wait and see. The developers could come out and say that, like, if it isn't specifically designated as an X lab, it's not an X lab, it's just another installation. And I suppose when that comes out, we're going to have to make of that what we can. As for the S.T.A.L.K.E.R, because the S.T.A.L.K.E.R is another lab installation, of course, but I was doing or trying to do some research on it, and I don't believe it's too old, at least from what I remember researching. I think it's not like new, but like new in the sense that like it was constructed pre-S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, post Call of Pripyat. So I don't know if I'd count this as an X lab. I think I just count this as like S.T.A.L.K.E.R, the IPSF. They were building it to try and have another link, detect anomalies around the zone, which I think is, fair enough. And I think that makes sense as what this is. Not an X lab, rather just a new installation developed by S.T.A.L.K.E.R, the IPSF, and possibly the ward as well. Azimuth, I recall Azimuth actually being an X lab, but I might be misremembering. However, I think it makes sense because when you go inside of the lab, well, I mean, first off, outside of the lab, there's this thing here, the insulator, I think. But yeah, like, it's an obvious like link between the zone. Like, you can see this here, which I believe is at Azimuth. You can see, you got the generators, possibly block 5. I can't remember. I think that's it's a whole other video. I believe Anomalous Dugout did do a video talking about the links. I think it was the video to do with the Brain Scorcher, which is a great video. So again, like I said, you should probably go to him if you want to learn more about these sort of things. But yeah, I think like we don't know what all of the X labs are. I think we can get a good idea on what the other ones are, even if they're not explicitly labelled as X labs. But then again, I suppose we're going to have to wait and see. We don't know what the S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 DLCs or even what just GSC themselves say. They could flip this video on its head and say none of this, or they could, or maybe, or all my suspicions could be true. So I guess we're just going to have to wait and see. I just wanted to come on here and discuss my, I don't think it's fair to call them hypotheses, but just like ideas about what the other X labs could be, because it's just important for us to understand the zone and what sea consciousness was doing. So yeah, good hunting, stalkers.